You ever notice how when someone tells you, hey, just calm down, it never actually helps because calm can't be forced. Calm isn't something you try to do. It's something that comes from knowing who you are and what's not yours to carry. See, when emotions rise, there's yours, anyone's. The goal isn't to fight for control. The goal is to stand in alignment, because when you know where you're planted, the storm doesn't scare you anymore. You realize you don't have to control the weather when you've built your house on rock, so stop trying to be calm. That's performance. That's ego saying, I have to appear unbothered, but pretending to be unbothered is still being bothered. What you actually want is peace, and peace doesn't look like silence. It looks like someone who knows exactly who they are, even when everything around them is shaking. It looks like breathing, not because you're suppressing anger, but because you're giving yourself permission to feel without becoming what you feel. When someone's emotional, their energy is looking for a mirror. They want you to match them, to get loud when they get loud, defensive when they're hurt, cold when they're scared. But your job isn't to match them. Your job is to be a window. Let it pass through you. You don't absorb it, you observe it. You see it for what it is, a storm that's passing, not a truth that defines you. You handle emotional people by refusing to enter their storm. You listen, you breathe, you ground yourself in the truth. This isn't mine. Because if you let their chaos enter your peace, you've handed over your power. But if you stay rooted, if you remember your worth, your boundaries, your divine steadiness, you actually invite them back to themselves. Your calm becomes a mirror that reflects what they've forgotten, their own capacity to be still. Detachment isn't rejection, it's reverence. It says, I love you, but I won't drown with you. It's spiritual maturity. Knowing that compassion doesn't mean participation. You can care deeply and still say, this energy isn't mine to hold. That's not cold. That's wisdom. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to stand firm and let someone else learn the weight of their own waves. When you stop trying to be calm and start choosing to be grounded, something shifts. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop defending. You start discerning. You stop being a thermostat for everyone else's emotions and start being a lighthouse, constant, unmoved, radiant. Because peace isn't the absence of emotion, it's the presence of understanding. And when you stand in that kind of peace, emotional people don't scare you anymore. They remind you of who you used to be before you learned how to anchor yourself in truth. You stop needing to fix them. You just become the example. And that's how you change the room, not by forcing calm, but by embodying it. True calm isn't a performance, it's alignment. You don't need to look calm. You need to be anchored. Most people confuse calmness with the appearance of control. A quiet face, steady tone, slow breath. But that's just surface management. Real calm comes from depth. It's not in your voice, it's in your roots. When your identity is grounded in truth, you don't have to manufacture calm. It naturally flows out of who you are. The reason so many people struggle to stay calm in emotional situations is because they're still trying to prove they have it together. They treat calm like an act, a mask they wear to look composed when inside their soul is spinning. But when you're anchored, you don't need to act calm. Your stability speaks for itself. Alignment means your thoughts, emotions, and values are in agreement. It means you're not pretending to be at peace while fighting chaos on the inside. It's when your spirit stands taller than your circumstances. That's the kind of calm that doesn't depend on how quiet the room is or how kind the people are. It's the calm that comes from knowing I'm centered in something bigger than what's happening right now. You stop reacting to what's temporary because your confidence is tied to what's eternal. You stop needing validation to stay balanced. You don't look calm because you're trying to impress anyone. You look calm because you're rooted in truth. When life shakes, alignment keeps you from breaking. It allows you to respond from peace instead of reacting from pain. Because when you're aligned, you don't let emotions dictate your decisions. You let purpose guide your response. You don't resist feelings, you respect them without surrendering to them. You understand that calm isn't weakness, it's strength under control. It's the quiet power of knowing that nothing outside of you can unseat the foundation within you. That's what it means to be anchored, to have a stillness that can't be taken no matter how loud the storm gets. So the next time chaos calls your name, don't try to be calm. Just return to your center, because when you're in alignment, peace doesn't have to be performed. It becomes your natural state. Emotional people don't need your stillness. They need your presence, the kind that doesn't bend or break. When someone is in an emotional storm, They're not looking for a perfectly calm person to analyze their chaos from a distance. They're looking for someone who can stand in the room with them and not disappear. They don't need you to suppress your energy to seem peaceful. They need to feel your grounded presence, steady and real, because presence is power. Presence says, I'm here, I see you, and I'm not running. Stillness can look detached if it's just an act, but presence, that deep, anchored awareness, becomes a healing force all by itself. It tells the other person that even if their emotions are overflowing, they are still safe in your company. You see, people often mistake presence for passivity. They think being present means saying nothing, doing nothing, or feeling nothing. But true presence is deeply engaged. It listens without judgment, observes without reacting, and stays connected without absorbing the chaos. It's an energy that communicates stability. When someone's emotions are unpredictable, your presence becomes the structure they can lean against, not to fix them, but to remind them that not everything around them is falling apart. Emotional people need to sense that the ground beneath them is still there, and your grounded presence becomes that ground. Being present doesn't mean you let yourself get pulled into their emotional gravity. It means you stand firm in your own. You're not there to compete with their energy or try to out-calm them. You're there to be consistent. You're the lighthouse when the waves rise, constant, unmoved, and radiant with understanding. That's how emotional storms begin to quiet, not because you told them to calm down, but because you showed them what calm looks like when it's rooted in truth. Presence doesn't demand control, it invites trust. It says, you can fall apart, and I'll still be standing. That kind of presence can't be faked. It's born from inner wholeness, from knowing who you are and what isn't yours to carry. When you carry that energy, emotional people feel it instantly. They might not have words for it, but their spirit recognizes safety when it finds it. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone in chaos isn't your advice, your calm, or your silence. It's your unshakable presence. Trying to be calm is control. Being grounded is connection. When you're trying to be calm, what you're really doing is trying to control the environment, your tone, your body, your words, the other person's reaction. You're trying to hold everything together with your willpower. But control is fragile. It cracks the moment someone pushes too hard, says too much, or challenges your composure. Groundedness, though, isn't about control. It's about connection to yourself, to the moment, and to what truly matters. When you're grounded, you're not fighting to appear calm. You're resting in the awareness that you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to fix the energy in the room. You don't need to dominate or disappear. You simply are, and that being is enough. Control is born out of fear, fear of losing respect, fear of being misunderstood, fear of things spiraling out of hand. But connection comes from trust, trust in your stability, trust in your purpose, trust that even if everything around you shakes, your roots will hold. That's the difference between performing calm and living from peace. Trying to control the emotional moment disconnects you from what's real. It puts you in your head. You start thinking about what to say, how to look, how not to react, and in that effort, you lose presence. Being grounded pulls you back into your body, back into truth. You can feel emotions without drowning in them. You can listen without needing to win. You can observe without absorbing. When you're grounded, you don't shrink in the presence of emotion. You expand. You make room for the other person's feelings without letting them overtake you. That's what makes your energy healing. You're not trying to contain them. You're inviting calm through your consistency. The more you try to control a moment, the more tension builds. But when you let go and simply connect to breath, to awareness, to compassion, that's when the room shifts. People feel the difference between someone who's managing them and someone who's truly with them. Groundedness doesn't need an audience. It's quiet power, invisible but undeniable, and when you live from that place, your peace stops depending on performance. It becomes natural. You stop trying to hold things together, and somehow everything holds itself together around you. You can't heal chaos by resisting it. You heal it by standing so still in truth that it loses its grip. When someone is emotional or when life itself feels loud, our first instinct is to resist. We push back. We tell ourselves, I can't deal with this right now. We fight the chaos, thinking that resistance equals strength. But resistance feeds what you're trying to silence. The more you fight emotion, yours or someone else's, the more power it gains. Healing doesn't happen through force. It happens through presence. When you stop fighting the chaos and start anchoring yourself in truth, the storm begins to lose its authority over you. You realize that stillness isn't the absence of emotion, it's the refusal to be controlled by it. Stillness in truth is not passive, it's active awareness. It's standing so firmly in who you are that no emotional wave can move you off your foundation. When someone around you is spiraling, your job isn't to fix their feelings or to run from them, it's to stand as truth in the middle of their noise. You don't match their chaos, you remind it that it can't control the atmosphere. That's why calm people who are authentically still, not performing peace, but being peace, change the entire emotional tone of a room. They don't argue with the storm. They simply outlast it. The moment you resist emotion, you get entangled with it. But when you observe it, when you allow it to exist without letting it define you, you disarm it. Truth has a frequency that chaos cannot sustain. It breaks down confusion without confrontation. It invites clarity without judgment. When you stand still in truth, you're not ignoring the pain, you're acknowledging it without surrendering your peace to it. That's how you heal a moment, not by controlling what happens, but by staying aligned with what's real. Every storm eventually runs out of rain. Emotional chaos isn't eternal, but your truth is. So the next time you find yourself in the middle of noise, stop trying to resist it. Instead, return to your center. Breathe, be still. Let truth speak louder than emotion. And in that stillness, the chaos will recognize it has no hold on you anymore. Emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity, the ability to see emotion without becoming it. Many people hear the word detachment and think it means distance, indifference, or lack of care. But real detachment isn't about disconnecting from people, it's about not losing yourself in their emotions. It's a higher form of love, one that's rooted in awareness instead of reaction. When you're detached, you still feel deeply, but you don't drown. You still care, but you don't carry what's not yours. You can be fully present with someone's pain without mistaking it for your own. That's not cold, that's wisdom. Emotional detachment is clarity because it allows you to see what's truly happening beneath the surface. When you're entangled in emotion, everything feels personal. Every word stings, every tone feels like a threat, and every silence feels like rejection. But detachment creates space between stimulus and response, between emotion and meaning. In that space, you can see the truth that most people's reactions are projections of their own battles, not reflections of your worth. You start realizing that not every storm demands your participation. You can acknowledge someone's emotion without taking responsibility for fixing it. When you live from detachment, you become more compassionate, not less, because your love is no longer conditional on comfort. You can hold space for someone else's anger, sadness, or fear without being shaken. You understand that their emotional storm isn't about you, it's about their process. And that allows you to respond with grace instead of defensiveness. Detachment doesn't make your heart hard, it makes your boundaries holy. It protects your peace so you can stay open without being overwhelmed. Clarity comes when you no longer confuse empathy with absorption. You stop absorbing everyone's emotional energy as your own. You stop trying to manage people's moods or earn their calm through your performance. You start realizing that peace isn't something you maintain by controlling others. It's something you preserve by mastering yourself. Emotional detachment is not emotional absence. It's emotional mastery. It's choosing to see with love but act with wisdom. And when you walk in that kind of clarity, you no longer lose yourself in anyone's chaos. You remain grounded, aware, and free, loving fully, but living lightly. Inner peace is not silence, it's strength under pressure that doesn't need to prove itself. Too often, people confuse peace with quiet, as if being peaceful means saying nothing, doing nothing, or feeling nothing. But real peace is not about avoiding tension, it's about holding your ground when tension arrives. It's not the absence of noise, conflict, or emotion. It's the presence of power that refuses to collapse under them. You know you've found inner peace when you no longer have to announce it, defend it, or protect it from others' behavior. It simply is unshaken, steady, and secure. Peace that's built on silence is fragile because it depends on circumstances staying calm. But peace that's built on strength is unbreakable because it lives within you. It doesn't come from people agreeing with you or situations going your way. It comes from knowing that even if everything around you falls apart, you still won't. It's the quiet confidence that says, I don't have to win this moment to be okay. That kind of peace doesn't hide from pressure. It transforms it. It allows you to stay soft without being weak, kind without being controlled, firm without being cruel. When you carry true inner peace, people can feel it before you speak. It's in your tone, your timing, your energy. You stop reacting to emotional bait because you understand that reaction is expensive. It costs you clarity, dignity, and power. Instead, you respond with presence. You listen, you breathe, you choose your words carefully, not because you're afraid to speak, but because you understand the weight of what you carry. Peace gives you discernment to know when to engage and when to let silence speak for you. That kind of strength doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't chase validation, control, or dominance. It's the power of still water, calm on the surface, deep beneath. It's the unspoken authority of someone who's mastered their inner world. When you reach that level of peace, chaos no longer intimidates you. Emotional people, loud arguments, unfair moments, none of it shakes you. Because peace has become your foundation, not your performance. It's not something you protect, it's something you project. And when you live from that strength, even pressure becomes a platform for grace. When you detach from outcomes, you gain authority over reactions. Most emotional turmoil comes from attachment, not just to people, but to how things should turn out. We get angry, disappointed, or defensive because deep down we're gripping an expectation that didn't unfold the way we imagined. But peace doesn't live in control, it lives in surrender. When you let go of the need to control outcomes, you stop being at the mercy of how things unfold. You begin to understand that your power doesn't come from forcing results, but from mastering how you show up regardless of them. That's the moment true emotional authority begins. Detachment from outcomes doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You give your best, speak your truth, love deeply, and then release your grip. You trust that whatever happens next is aligned with your growth, not your loss. That's where emotional maturity is born. The person who's still trying to control how others respond, how situations resolve, or how the story ends is constantly exhausted. But the one who's learned to let go carries peace wherever they go because they're no longer negotiating with reality. They're in harmony with it. They understand that peace isn't found when everything goes right. It's found when you stop needing everything to go your way. When you detach, your reactions shift. You stop being triggered by delays, rejections, or misunderstandings because your identity isn't tied to outcomes anymore. You can listen without defensiveness because you're not trying to win. You're trying to understand. You can stand in conflict without losing yourself because your worth isn't on trial. That's what gives you authority. When you're no longer bound to how something ends, you become free to handle what's in front of you with wisdom and calm. Detachment gives you space, the kind of space where truth can breathe. You start seeing situations clearly, not through the fog of fear or desire. You stop reacting impulsively because you realize nothing outside of you defines your peace. The moment you stop chasing control, you find clarity, and that clarity gives you the quiet authority to move through chaos without being consumed by it. That's the real power of letting go. It's not losing control. It's regaining yourself. Real confidence is not in how softly you speak, but how deeply you understand what's not yours to carry. Confidence isn't about tone, posture, or composure. Those are just expressions of something deeper. True confidence lives in awareness. It's the unshakable knowing of what belongs to you and what doesn't. It's the quiet refusal to take ownership of burdens that were never meant to be yours, other people's moods, opinions, projections, or expectations. When you understand what's not yours to carry, you stop wasting energy trying to manage what you can't control. You move from reaction to response, from tension to trust. Too many people try to appear confident by softening their voice, controlling their face, or rehearsing their words. But confidence isn't in how you look, it's in how you know. When you understand your emotional boundaries, your peace doesn't depend on the behavior of others. You don't shrink when someone's angry. You don't rise to defend when someone's unfair, and you don't chase validation when someone withdraws. Because confidence isn't arrogance or performance. It's rootedness. It's standing in truth even when the room is loud. It's saying, I'm responsible for my energy, not for everyone's comfort. When you live from that kind of knowing, you stop absorbing everyone's emotions. You can sit in someone else's storm without becoming part of it. You can care without carrying. You can love without losing yourself. That's what makes your confidence magnetic. It's calm, not because you're forcing it, but because you're free. People feel that. They feel when someone's presence is grounded in self-awareness instead of self-defense. You stop reacting to emotional noise because you've learned the sacred art of discernment, recognizing what's yours to hold and what needs to pass through. Confidence born from this kind of understanding doesn't shout. It doesn't compete. It doesn't need approval. It walks with quiet strength, guided by clarity. When you stop trying to manage the emotions of others, your own emotions find balance. You realize you don't have to fix, prove, or explain. You just have to be. That's the deepest form of confidence there is, knowing that your peace is sacred, your presence is enough, and your purpose doesn't require permission. Real confidence isn't loud, it's free. The calmest person in the room isn't the quietest, it's the one most secure in purpose. Calm is often mistaken for silence or stillness, but true calm has nothing to do with how much you speak or how slow you move. It has everything to do with how deeply you know why you're there and who you are in that moment. When your actions and words are anchored in purpose, chaos can swirl around you, but it can't pull you in. You don't compete with noise because you're already rooted in meaning. You understand that your value isn't determined by how the room reacts. It's defined by the truth you stand on. That's the kind of calm that commands presence without ever demanding attention. When someone knows their purpose, they no longer chase validation. They don't need to prove calmness or appear composed because their energy is already aligned with something greater. They walk into any environment, conflict, confusion, or pressure, and remain steady because they're not there to win an argument, they're there to live from truth. Purpose is what separates surface level calm from unshakable peace. Surface calm depends on how people treat you. Purposeful calm depends on what you believe about yourself. One can be broken by criticism or misunderstanding, but the other remains untouchable. You can always tell when someone's security comes from purpose. Their calm has weight. It's not passive or timid, it's confident and clear. They listen without defensiveness, speak without fear, and leave space for others to be emotional without mirroring that energy. Because they're not trying to manage the room, they're simply being who they're called to be. That kind of calm doesn't come from personality, it comes from alignment. It's knowing that no reaction, no accusation, and no misunderstanding can take you off course unless you hand it that power. When you're secure in purpose, peace becomes your natural response. You stop seeing emotional people as threats and start seeing them as reflections of what you've already mastered. You understand that calm isn't weakness. It's evidence of understanding. The person most anchored in purpose doesn't just stay calm for themselves, they create calm for others. And that's what real strength looks like, not the absence of noise, but the presence of divine direction that nothing can shake. Handling emotional people isn't about fixing them, it's about staying faithful to who you are while they find their footing. Too often, we step into emotional situations believing our role is to repair, to make the other person feel better, calm them down, or bring logic to their chaos. But that's not your assignment. You can't fix what someone else isn't ready to heal, and you can't save someone by abandoning yourself. True strength is remaining rooted in your values, your peace, and your truth, even when the person in front of you is unraveling. It's not coldness, it's integrity. The ability to stand in love without losing your balance. When someone is emotional, what they often need most isn't a solution, it's stability. They need to feel that even if they lose control, you won't. That your tone won't shift with theirs, and your energy won't rise to meet their chaos. They need to see what grounded looks like, and you can only offer that if you're not trying to manage their emotions. The moment you take responsibility for how they feel, you've already left your center. You begin to react instead of respond. But when you stay faithful to who you are, calm, clear, and compassionate, you give them permission to find their way back to balance. Being faithful to yourself in emotional moments doesn't mean shutting down empathy. It means holding empathy with boundaries. It means saying, I see your pain, but I won't drown with you. It's understanding that love without boundaries becomes enabling, and compassion without clarity turns into confusion. Staying true to yourself allows you to love someone without losing yourself in their storm. You can hold space without holding weight. That's what emotional mastery looks like. Not fixing others, but maintaining alignment while they rediscover theirs. When you stop trying to fix people, you actually become more powerful in helping them because your energy no longer comes from anxiety, it comes from peace. You're no longer reacting, you're reflecting what steadiness feels like. And that steadiness often speaks louder than any advice could. The most healing thing you can offer to emotional people is your unwavering authenticity, the version of you that stays faithful to peace, even in the presence of pain. Peace is not about appearing calm, it's about living anchored. The world doesn't need more people pretending to be composed. It needs people who are truly grounded in who they are. You can't change how emotional others become, but you can decide who you'll be when their emotions rise. Every moment of chaos is an invitation, not to lose yourself, not to fix others, but to return home to your truth. The storms outside will always come, but if your roots run deep enough, no wind can uproot you. Stop performing calmness. Start practicing presence. Stop chasing control. Start choosing connection. Real strength isn't proven in how little you react, but in how much you remain. The most powerful person in any room is not the loudest, not the quietest, but the one who knows their piece is not for sale. So stand firm. Speak from love. Act from clarity. And when the world around you trembles with emotion, let your stillness remind it what power really looks like. Because when you master your inner world, no outer world can master you.